September 1066. A Viking army, led by the most feared warrior king of the age, believes it has already won. For 3 days, they've watched their English enemies break and run in sheer terror. The Vikings are confident, exhausted from pursuit, and utterly convinced of their victory. But it was all a lie, a patient, calculated, and devastating deception. This is the story of the Battle of Stamford Bridge, and the 3-day fake retreat that tricked, trapped, and slaughtered a legend. To understand the sheer audacity of this plan, you need to understand the threat. Landing in the north of England was Harold Hardrada, the King of Norway. His name meant hard ruler, and his reputation was, well, he was basically a real-life Viking superhero. He'd fought from the frozen rivers of Russia to the walls of Constantinople. With him was Tostig Godwinson, the bitter, exiled brother of the English king, Harold Godwinson. This wasn't a raid. This was a full-scale invasion to conquer the entire kingdom. They landed with a fleet of over 300 ships, smashed the local Northern English army at the Battle of Fulford, and secured their base. They were confident, they were proven, and they were waiting for the English to surrender. But King Harold was in the south, preparing for an expected invasion from Normandy. When he heard the news, he did the unthinkable. He force-marched his entire household army, his elite, professional housecarls, from London to Yorkshire in just 4 days, a distance of over 180 miles. They covered nearly 50 miles a day. It was one of the most incredible military marches in history. Harold's army arrived, but they didn't just charge in. The Vikings were dispersed, many without their armor, enjoying their victory. It was the perfect moment for a surprise attack. But Harold was a tactical genius. He knew that even a surprised Viking was a deadly Viking. A head-on assault, even with the element of surprise, would be a bloodbath. So he initiated his plan. He sent forward his skirmishers and parts of his line. They would engage the Vikings fiercely, and then, on a prearranged signal, they would break. They would throw down their banners, they would feign panic, and they would run. And this is the crucial part. For the Norsemen, a fleeing enemy was a defeated enemy. Their entire culture of warfare was built on the concept of the decisive charge, the breaking of the enemy line, and the rout. To see the English run confirmed everything they believed about their own superiority. So, they did what came naturally. They broke their own defensive shield wall to give chase. This wasn't a one-off trick. Harold repeated this maneuver for 3 entire days. Imagine the discipline this required from the English soldiers. To turn your back and run, pretending to be a coward, when you are one of the most professional soldiers in Europe. It took immense courage and trust in their king's plan. With each retreat, the Vikings grew more confident, more contemptuous of the English. They were also getting more exhausted, strung out, and further from their fortified camp and the safety of their ships. Harold wasn't just tiring them physically. He was luring them into a strategic trap, stretching their lines and sapping their vigilance. He was making them feel like hunters, when in reality, they were the prey. On the final day, the Vikings gave chase once more, believing this would be the final, victorious rout. But as they surged forward, they crested a small hill and saw the truth. The main English battle line, the housecarls who had not been part of the feigned retreats, were waiting, rested, armed, and arrayed for a decisive stand. The Vikings were now exhausted, disorganized, and miles from their camp. The trap was sprung. The Battle of Stamford Bridge was a brutal, close-quarters slaughter. The Vikings, caught completely by surprise and out of formation, were cut down. Harold Hardrada, the legendary warrior, was killed by an arrow to the throat. His ally, Tostig, was also slain. The Viking army was virtually annihilated. King Harold and his army had achieved an incredible total victory. They had destroyed one of the 2 major threats to their kingdom. But the celebration was short-lived. Just 3 days later, news arrived. William of Normandy had landed in the south. Harold's exhausted, depleted army had to force march all the way back down the country. They would meet William at Hastings, with tragic, history-changing consequences. While Hastings gets all the fame, Stamford Bridge was arguably the greater military achievement. It was a tactical masterpiece of patience, discipline, and psychological warfare that saved England from one conqueror, only to deliver it, weakened, to another. What do you think is the greatest military trap ever set? Let me know your picks in the comments below. And if you want more breakdowns of history's most brilliant and brutal strategies, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss our next video. Thanks for watching.